A major shock just hit the crypto world. A black swan event has rocked Bitcoin. Investors have taken profits totaling a jaw-dropping $3.5 billion in just 24 hours. This marks one of the biggest one-day sell-offs we've seen all year. I literally just woke up and checked the charts like, what's going on? Bitcoin is sliding a bit, not a total crash, but definitely a noticeable dip. And as always, there's a reason behind it. Crypto is wild, and this is one of those moments. Here's what's really happening. A massive Bitcoin whale holding 80,000 BTC has started offloading their stash. The transactions are all on-chain and very real. We're talking 4,000 BTC here, 4,500 there, another 2,000, 3,000, even 200, adding up to nearly $2 billion worth already sold. The real concern, this whale still holds roughly another $6 billion in BTC that could hit the market at any time. Now, out of the total dumped, 16,000 BTC were sold over the counter, which doesn't directly move the market since it's handled off exchanges. But 2,000 BTC were sold on exchanges, and that's enough to spook traders and cause price slippage. So while this dip isn't massive yet, it's definitely something to watch. The whale isn't done, and that means Bitcoin might be in for more turbulence. Okay, yeah, I guess it did drop around 5%, so it's not exactly a tiny dip. But here's the thing. I've got a pretty good idea of what's coming next for Bitcoin. It all comes down to the charts. Should we dive into that now? Maybe let's hold off for a bit. We'll get there. Anyway, I'm thinking of opening a long position soon. I'm sitting on about 1,000 XRP right now, so I might make a move depending on how this plays out. I'm probably going to enter a long position next week, guys. That's the plan for now. But hey, if the price dips a bit more in the short term, I'm totally fine with that. Let's take a closer look. What's going on here? All right, so this whale, we've now identified exactly who this individual is. This guy had so much Bitcoin. We're talking 80,000 BTC at one point, and now he's down to around 60,000. That's huge. And here's the thing. He's not just some random whale. This dude is clearly an insider. And get this. I totally forgot, but something major just dropped today. Breaking news that ACS inflation jumped to 2.7%. That's higher than forecasted. Wait, what? Inflation didn't go down. It actually rose, and it came in hotter than anyone expected. 2.7% is insane. That's no joke. And you know what that means? Jerome Powell's about to go full beast mode. The guy's been holding back for a reason. They haven't cut rates yet, and now we know why. So today's video is all about what's coming next for crypto. With these macroeconomic shifts, we have to stay one step ahead. I almost forgot to factor in these outside data points, but they're critical. All right, before we dive into everything else, let me explain why I think this drop happened. It's not just because of the external news, though that definitely played a part, but the real story is in the charts. So here's what I was watching closely. The stablecoin dominance chart, specifically USDT. I had my eye on a key level. And look at this. It tested that moving average on the 5-day chart 3 times as support. 1, 2, 3, crystal clear. Now here's where it gets interesting. Bitcoin needs to break above this level, roughly around 120K on this chart. If that level flips into resistance, Bitcoin could rally all the way to 150K. But since that support is held, yeah, there's potential for more downside first. So where could Bitcoin go if it drops again? Let's look at the 12-hour moving average. From that key support zone to the next major level is about a 6% drop. Now let's flip back to Bitcoin itself. A 6% correction from current levels takes us right to the previous all-time high. That would be a textbook retest. Kinda crazy, right? So we might see a dip like this before the real pump kicks in. That's my current outlook. Honestly, I'm hoping they hold off until next week, because I'm ready to ape in on XRP. I'm loaded and watching closely. And let me say this, I'm done talking trash about market makers. I swear, every time I do, it's like they hear me and move the market just to prove a point. Not even joking. So yeah, this whale, he's not just some big holder. I'm convinced he's an insider. Keep a close eye on him, because if he continues offloading his stash, things could get real shaky. Now, based on what we know, he only dumped about 2,000 BTC on exchanges, and even that triggered a sharp drop in Bitcoin's price. We saw around a 5% dip from that alone. Of course, it's not just him selling. There's always broader market action involved. But the fact that just 2,000 BTC caused that kind of move says a lot about current liquidity. If selling that amount had such a big impact, imagine what would happen if he offloaded everything. The market could get crushed under that kind of pressure. All right, back to the inflation topic for a second. The fact that it actually rose is wild. According to the transparent data from True Inflation, we're seeing numbers closer to 1.82%. So where exactly is the Fed pulling their numbers from? It's obvious there's some data manipulation or selective reporting happening here. Everyone was celebrating markets were climbing, crypto and stocks were pumping, because supposedly inflation was under control. Then out of nowhere it spikes above expectations. Make it make sense. And this is exactly what I've been warning you about. I've been saying all along Jerome Powell should hike rates. I know, that's not what most people want to hear. But here's why I'm saying it. If Powell did hike aggressively, it would crash the system, plain and simple. And you know what happens next? XRP explodes. We're talking $2,000 overnight type of move. But the longer they avoid doing it, the more we suffer. Inflation drags on, and real people, you and me, take the hit. This is why understanding these macro shifts is so important right now. Guys, is it just me or is this getting weird? Jim Cramer recently said that Nvidia's latest news was so massive, it could single-handedly flip NASDAQ futures. He's been super bullish lately, and now everyone's wondering, is this the time? He literally tweeted that out just yesterday. And then look what happened today. Kinda says this, right? Here's the news. Nvidia just announced they'll start selling their H20 chips to China. That's a big move. But what's odd is the timing and how overly bullish Cramer's been. Check this out. He's also been hyping up new safe havens to park your money. Palantir, Robinhood, some other picks, and even Coinbase. But honestly, most of those plays are either mid-tier or total trash right now. And remember, this is Jim Cramer. The guy's a walking contrarian signal. When he goes full bullish, smart money starts getting nervous. Yeah. And here's something else no one's talking about. Everyone's super hyped about Nvidia, calling it ultra bullish. But hold up. Why did the CEO just dump $35 million worth of shares and then sell another $36 million right after that? Since the start of June, he's cashed out nearly $1 billion in total. That's not a small move. That's a red flag. And it's not just Nvidia. Jeff Bezos just offloaded another $100 million in Amazon stock, and that came just 2 days after he already dumped $600 million. So ask yourself why. Why are these top-tier insiders suddenly cashing out massive amounts while retail is being told everything's looking bullish? They know what's coming. They always do. So here's the real issue. The latest inflation data just dropped. And guess what? It went up. That's a major problem because now the Fed isn't likely to cut rates anytime soon. They were considering a rate cut this month, but that's pretty much off the table now. Inflation came in hotter than expected, and that throws a wrench in everything. And now, brace yourselves. Here comes Trump. I swear, every single day or at least every other day, I'm seeing him go off on the Fed. He's constantly taking shots at Jerome Powell, saying he needs to cut rates immediately. But let's be real, Trump wants rate cuts for one reason: to pump the markets. He wants stocks, crypto, meme coins, NFTs, literally every asset class to skyrocket. And the only way that happens fast, Fed cuts and money printer go brr. Meanwhile, Powell's not playing that game. He sees what's going on in the economy. He's holding the line, staying neutral for now. And honestly, if inflation keeps rising, he might even hike rates again. And you know what? That might actually be the better move long term. Just rip the bandage off and deal with it. But yeah, Trump's out here wilding. I keep seeing these headlines, him slamming the Fed, saying Powell has been terrible for the country. One of his economic advisors even said Trump could fire Powell if he had a reason. Oh, and apparently Trump's also saying tariffs had zero impact on inflation. Make of that what you will. Things have officially hit a boiling point. President Trump is now openly blasting Fed Chair Jerome Powell, saying he's risking the full faith and credit of the United States. That's a huge accusation coming from a former president. And it's not just Trump. Vice President J.D. Vance recently tore into the Federal Reserve, accusing them of being completely asleep at the wheel, totally out of touch with what's happening in the economy. Then comes the bombshell. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that the process to replace Jerome Powell has officially begun. It's getting wild, guys. Behind closed doors, insiders are even saying Powell's position has become so unstable that he's reportedly considering stepping down. That's right, the Fed chair might resign under pressure. And to top it off, some officials are straight up calling him a moron. Honestly, I'm encouraged by the reports that Jerome Powell might step down. If that's true, I genuinely think this could be the right move. Not just for the Fed, but for the entire U.S. economy. It could finally open the door to real growth again. And guess what? Trump didn't miss a beat. He reposted that sentiment right away. That says a lot. But here's the catch. Powell's whole job right now seems to be managing, or rather collapsing, the economy in a controlled way to fight inflation. So is he really going to walk away in the middle of that mission? No. I highly doubt it. He's not going anywhere. At least not yet. And now let's talk about Jim Cramer again. Now here's where things get even crazier. Jim Cramer is suddenly super bullish on stocks and fintech, hyping up companies like Coinbase, Robinhood, and others. But now, he's taken it a step further. He's claiming that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, yes, the Jamie Dimon, is about to go all in on crypto. Seriously, if that's not the biggest contrarian signal ever, I don't know what is. Let's not forget, this is the same Cramer who used to own Ethereum, sold it, and then it pumped. Classic. Now he's suggesting that Jamie Dimon, who's been a known critic of Bitcoin, is suddenly doing a full 180 and embracing it. Cramer's basically painting Dimon as a crypto convert, calling Bitcoin the truth, the chosen one, and saying it's going to the moon. Honestly, it's starting to feel like we're in some alternate reality. Even Diamond today threw shade at private equity and events-based reporting platforms, yet people still trust these headlines. If I could, I'd put money down, like a bookie on when Jamie Dimon officially flips on crypto. Maybe he announces it during a conference call. If he does, that would be one of the biggest U-turns in financial history. But this is exactly why we need to watch the signs. Because when the biggest skeptics suddenly go full bull, something's up. Look, this isn't just some random market dip. I'm telling you straight up, this has nothing to do with typical manipulation or FUD. This is linked to Satoshi-era mined coins, and that's the real problem. The whale behind this dumped just 2,000 BTC on exchanges, and that alone triggered a 5% crash in Bitcoin's price. 5%? That's not even accounting for other insider selling going on at the same time. Now think about this. If just 2,000 BTC caused that much damage, what happens if he sells the remaining 60,000 on exchanges instead of OTC? It would absolutely wreck the market. We're talking full-on panic mode. This is what we call a black swan event, something unpredictable, rare, and devastating. And it just unfolded right in front of us. At this point, it feels like there's only one person who can step in and save the crypto markets. Here's where things get interesting again. BlackRock just stepped in and scooped up another 3,000 Bitcoin. It looks like they're trying to absorb some of the selling pressure from the whales. That's no small move. And then there's Trump. The man literally said, if I go on TV, the markets go wild. I can move them just by talking. And honestly, he's not wrong. If he jumped back on camera right now and started dropping bold statements, it would send the markets into a frenzy. He needs to do that again. Go full throttle, say something wild, and spark another rally before the momentum turns too far against us. Now, as for Bitcoin, I'm watching that previous all-time high closely. I genuinely believe we're going to bounce off that level and head back up. That support zone is critical. And me, I'm planning ahead. Hopefully next week I'm going in heavy, planning to buy up to 1,000 XRP. Once I'm in, I'm longing it. I don't care. I'm that confident in the setup. As long as that previous AHH holds as support, I'm not worried. Could we dip lower? Sure. Anything's possible, but I don't think we'll go much further down. That's my game plan. Everyone's got to make their own moves, but this is how I'm positioning. Let's see how it plays out.